Everyone at LS, this is the patch 9.11 notes rundown. Let's just jump right into it because from the things that I've heard, I'm not going to be very excited about this patch. Akali, passive energy refund decreased, late damage ratio decreased. Energy refund 10 to 30 scaling to 10 to 20 scaling, damage ratio 0.9 bonus attack damage, 0.7 ability power to 0.6 bonus AD, and 0.5 ability power. So Akali only ends up getting Gunblade for bonus attack damage. Although, obviously, I guess this influences her dragons as well. And then the 0.5 ability power is obviously quite problematic. Do I think that it's going to be the end of the world for Akali? No. Is there going to be some situations in which she's going to miss the execution threshold on certain carries? Yeah, sometimes. But generally, Akali tends to overkill her target anyway, or the ones that she's going for. So I think in those cases, it's not super bad. Okay. Bonus true damage decreased. What? What? Look, I don't know who it was that lost to this champion down there in the depths, but I got some advice for you. All right, I know that you're watching the rundown. You gotta play Annie. You play Annie, we wouldn't be having Amumu get nerfed on 9/11 here. Mother of God, what am I fucking reading? God, demonetized. What is going on here? I actually just don't even have words. This is such a laughably pathetic fucking oh, demonetized again. I'm actually angry. This is so stupid. Who suggested this? Okay. Ekko, basic attacking after E no longer delayed due to animation. Ekko will now consistently basic attack in his regular cadence after using phase drive instead of having to wait for his animation. That's actually really nice. Ekko's been getting a little bit of love lately. Some people have, begun to test him out, I think, in scrims as an AP jungler, just so that there's more diversity that is available, I think, inside of the pick ban in regards to if you have AD top, AD mid, and you need an AP jungler that isn't going to be Evelyn, Karthus, or Elise. And so in that regard, that's nice. Ekko is obviously still a counter pick in mid lane for certain matchups, and if you're the Chinese Ekko player, you can just blind pick it like he did several times in the LPL. Galio, W base damage decreased, damage ratio in W base damage decreased, damage ratio increased, E damage decreased, W shield of Duran, minimum damage 20 to 60 scaling, 0.2 ability power to 10 to 50 scaling, plus 0.3 ability power. So all that you need is 100 AP to break even on this, which isn't that bad, but it just means that he has less all-in potential early on. Maximum damage 60 to 180, 0.6 ability power to 30 to 150 plus 0.9 ability power. I mean, this isn't super, this change is sort of whatever. Justice Punch 100 to 240 to 80 to 240. So they're just making it so that he doesn't have the ability to try to delete you early on inside of the laning phase. The really weird thing about this 9.11 notes change is that Galio, he has been slowly fading out of the meta, and even when he was in the meta recently, he wasn't in the meta in mid lane. So the fact that he was mostly in the meta coming in from support, I mean, there were select times where he was picked in mid lane, but he was mostly transitioned into the supportive role, and he was also transitioned into the supportive role to sort of accompany Kalista in a lot of ways. Kalista Galio was an extremely popular combo. With that being said, the AP change is actually a little bit problematic because support Galio is not going to be making up for the loss of damage, and so AP Galio in mid lane just gets hit a little bit early on, but people aren't picking AP Galio in mid anymore, so it doesn't really make that much sense. The nerf is just completely out of left field. Gragas, base health growth, attack damage increase, 5.83.5. All right, so he gets 16.5 HP. At level 1, health growth, he gets 6 per level. That's actually quite nice. Attack damage, 61.4 to 64. Increasing Gragas' early durability and helping out his clear speed. I would actually really like to know what is the increase in clear speed. This is stuff that I find really fascinating. So the patch notes actually tend to come out before the patch goes live. I would be really, really interested in having someone do several clears on current Gragas, and then once the patch goes live, you go and clear on Gragas and actually see if it increases the clear speed. Because like the Karthus thing, for instance, the 5 damage that was removed from his Q, as long as you were kiting correctly, his clear speed wasn't decreased. There's a lot of situations where the patch notes will say something like, oh, well, this helps out his clear speed, or this does something to decrease their clear speed, and realistically it just doesn't if you're using your hands. So I'm not entirely sure. I have a very hard time imagining this will increase his clear speed. So, yeah. Janna, W cooldown now scales. Base damage decrease late. E cooldown now decreases when Janna CCs enemy. Cooldown decreased early. Increased late. Shield increased. Okay. W Zephyr. Cooldown 8 seconds to 8 to 6 seconds. Base damage 55 to 235 to 55 to 195. It's not the end of the world. So mostly you're just looking at the early game potency. So not too much change there. E Eye of the Storm. Each ability that slows or knocks back an enemy champion reduces Eye of the Storm's cooldown by 20%. Cooldown 18 to 10 seconds to 16 to 12 seconds. Shield 70 to 210 to 80 to 220. So they're shifting her more into actually being a supportive champion than just trying to outright bully the opponents. I actually like these changes on Janna. I'm not opposed to Janna being meta, even though I think that she's very, very unfun. But that is something that I tend to find to be exciting in some situations when you can have a champion that just stonewalls the opposing team. So, okay. Jayce, Q base damage decrease, late damage ratio decrease, so they just keep hitting Jayce. Base damage 70 to 320 to 70 to 295. Damage ratio 1.2, bonus attack damage to 1.0, bonus attack damage. I think that MSI leads people to believing that Jayce is still overall really good without considering that some of the people that were at MSI are some of the best top laners in the world. Jayce will continue to be a champion pick that only elite top laners will be able to play, but I think that once we see LCS resume and whatnot, everyone will see very quickly that incompetent players that can't actually manage spacing, zoning, XP, trading, trade timing, XP denial, trade timings, etc., are going to be unable to pilot Jayce as well as transition him into the mid and late game. And so, interestingly, he has become a champion that truly, he's sort of taken on the mantle of the old Azir, where there was very few players around the world that could actually play Azir, and now Jayce has sort of taken on the mantle of that in top lane. So, there's that. Karthus, our damage ratio decreased. Karthus is still running games over just by virtue of being a great jungle clearer, but it's the burst on the ultimate that's really putting him over the edge and making him such a dominant jungle choice. Well, yeah, his R is quite nice. I do agree. Requiem, 250 to 550 scaling plus 0.7 ability power to 200 to 500 plus 0.65 ability power. The problem with this is, I was talking about this on stream yesterday. Not only that, but I was playing Karthus at several points, and I was highlighting to Twitch chat as well. There were several occasions where I missed kills on the opponent because rank 1 Karthus ultimate, if you don't have Runic Ekko, is so hard to kill the opponent in a non-coordinated environment because the damage is almost negligible after you factor in resistances. The other thing about it is that you have to make sure that your Runic Ekko is actually available when you go to cast the ult, because otherwise you just miss out on way too much damage. So Karthus has all these little nuances going for him, and it makes me really sad to see champions hit in a way that can actually potentially almost pacify them in the meta. And it worries me because I hate when stuff like this happens, because there's a very good chance. I saw on Twitter that they said that, well, if this hits him too hard, then they'll definitely just they'll give him some power back and yada yada yada. No, they won't, because where's Quinn? All too often, champions are hit and then forgotten about, and it's really sad to see. Karthus at MSI, he wasn't picked, which actually made me just think that they weren't going to touch him. And in solo queue, I do get it. He's extremely oppressive. He has an extremely high ban rate at higher MMRs. He's actually, this is interestingly a champion that's much stronger at higher MMR than I believe that he is at lower MMR. Because there is some level of coordination that is necessary in people understanding how your ultimate actually works, because otherwise you're just going to end up having 40 Dark Harvest stacks and silver and pressing R every 50 seconds or something, because everyone just keeps dying and double aces on each team's. But with that being said, I think that the amount of damage they took away from him was too excessive. I also had made several suggestions on Twitter, Twitch, elsewhere about, maybe make Wall of Pain scale differently to reward Karthus's that actually land it, so that maybe either they can get more damage out of their R or they can get more damage out of their Q. Maybe do something to his passive. Maybe do something to his mono regen off of his E passive. There's a lot of other ways to hit jungle Karthus that wasn't just hitting Requiem so directly. I think if they just hit the 50 AP, maybe you could say that's okay, because mid-game Karthus will tend to overkill most of the targets. I mean, there will be some thin lines where, yes, okay, they'll really just be right on the cusp. But I think that the AP ratio plus the flat is just really, really excessive. Makes me very, very sad. They didn't even try to think of a creative way to actually change him. And if he wasn't problematic in pro play, evident by MSI, or at least not yet, I think that he had the ability to be, even if he wasn't yet, I would have just thought that you try other ways to creatively change him instead of just outright stabbing him. Mastery, bonus attack speed at level 1 removed, Q isolated target damage decreased. Why? Bonus attack speed at level 1 no longer receives 8% bonus attack speed at level 1. Q alpha strike, 25% attack damage per target. Just get out, man. Ramus, passive attack damage flattened, R damage decreased. Passive spike shell, 8 to 20, 10 at all levels. R tremors, 40 to 120, 30 to... Warwick, Q healing increased late. Jaws of the Beast, 30 to 70% of all damage dealt, 30 to 90% of all damage dealt. That's great. This champion still sucks. How about you actually do something that's going to change him instead of just, showing up after a week or 2 weeks, and because you didn't actually do anything, you put forth this suggestion to make it seem like you thought about something that maybe could be added to the patch notes for the upcoming release. I don't know. When I see these changes, what else do I think? What else do I think? I could literally think about this when I was just taking a shit on the toilet 10 minutes ago. How is this what makes it into the final cut? This is so sick. No, the champ will not be competitively viable. No, this will not make him a solo queue menacer even remotely okay inside of solo queue at higher MMRs. No, I'm so sorry. It actually just won't. Yuumi, Q range indicator, brightness adjusted. W now gives assist when she first attaches. E movement speed decayed flat and lots of bug fixes. Okay. Yuumi is really interesting. I think that when LCS, LEC, and LCK kick off really soon, that we will be seeing a lot of Yuumi. I think that she is truly the Mew of supports, and I'm really excited to actually see good Yuumis pop off in competitive, because I just think the champion is so scary strong, and her scaling is just bonkers, and the amount of utility inside of this champion is just so insane. It's so powerful. I'm really looking forward to it. Q range indicator, I mean, these are all just adjustments and stuff. E movement speed decay flat and lots of bug fixes. This is all really nice. Yuumi is a champion that I look forward to actually seeing in competitive. Zach, Q slow decrease, cooldown decrease, late W max health damage now scales with AP. Oh, that's important. R reverted to pre-patch 7.9. Q stretching strike, 60 to 40%, cooldown 13 to 9 to 13 to 7. Okay, I mean, I guess that's actually a welcome change. W unstable matter, 2% of target's max health per 100 ability power. Yeah, that's really good. That's really nice. All that AP Zach that we got going. R, let's bounce, not squishy. Zach no longer squishes himself down while charging for up to 2.5 seconds, becoming unstoppable. Okay, so they changed him to the 4 bounce. Each bounce does 140 plus 200, 140 to 280 plus 0.4 ability power magic damage, knocks up enemies for 1 second. Subsequent bounces on the same target do 50% magic damage and do not knock them up. Zach can move during Let's Bounce and ramping movement speed over the duration up to 50%. So the thing about this is that if Zach is probably going to be viable anymore outside of just being a niche counterpick or whatever, probably just means that he ends up being played as AP Zach. I mean, this is probably great for the AP Zach enthusiasts in solo queue, but overall, this is, yeah, that's it. This is a really cute skin. I actually really like this skin. I hate this patch. This patch is such a dumpster fire. Nothing changed. Absolutely. I mean, things change. Let's recap really quick. Akali's still Akali, competitive and solo queue. Amumu hit for no reason because someone doesn't know to play Annie in silver. Ekko. Ekko change is actually nice. Ekko is actually probably the most noticeable change here. Galio is a testament to how out of touch or something the people are with not realizing that he's support and not mid, and he hasn't been mid, and there's a reason that he hasn't been mid for a pretty long time. So not entirely sure what is going on here. I actually don't think that we'll see a return of Galio mid either. Maybe we see it out of like Galio mid enthusiasts or teams that really like mid Galio, like SKT and Griffin, but outside of that, I just can't imagine that Galio actually comes back. Who knows? Gragas change, I can't imagine that it's very big, but obviously the health growth and the base health is really nice for Gragas, so we can take that. But ultimately, so far, we've had no real competitive changes or solo queue changes yet. Janna, this is, I guess, one of the more noticeable changes, but again, Janna isn't a champion that is prevalent in the meta right now. Jayce Shock Blast. Jayce isn't being picked for, you know, losing this damage later on in the game. Jayce is being picked for many other reasons that all pertain to his early game, and what this is basically saying is that his early game is not being impacted enough. So the Jayce enthusiasts and the Jayce masters that are still able to play him in all the regions, which are very, very specific key players, are still going to be able to play Jayce. The Karthus is actually problematic because probably means that maybe some teams will still pick him in, I guess, Europe, right? They like Karthus, but for the most part, he didn't actually show his head as much as he could have, and I think that this is way too excessive for solo queue. Master Yi thing is just a joke. Karamis thing's a joke. Warwick thing's a joke. Yuumi is really cool. I hope to see her in competitive, but ultimately it's not really a big change. The Zach thing is really weird, and it just seems that they've turned him into a for-fun champion rather than anything else. Overall, I'm really aggravated at this patch. I mean, this doesn't happen every so often, but this almost feels like when you had a teacher that so sometimes there were like homework assignments where you didn't have to do anything on the homework. You didn't have to get anything right. You didn't have to even be coherent and whatever it was that you were writing in. But what would happen is that as long as you completed the assignment, you got full credit. That's exactly what this whole patch note feels like. It just feels like, I don't know. There's no way for me to put it any better without getting TOS'd on Twitch or demonetized further on YouTube or something. So I'm just gonna cut it off there. This patch is a dumpster fire.